Hey folks, welcome back to Ed's Garage. On this really quick, short little episode, I want to see how much I can get out of a 200 amp hour 12 volt battery pack. It's a lithium iron phosphate battery that I just got, and I'm very excited to see what sort of range I can get back into my electric vehicle with just that battery. So I'll show you where we're at right now. So as you can see, I've got 106 kilometers of range at the moment and 65% charge. I'm not going to be charging, obviously, for 9 hours and 30 minutes because the battery just isn't that big. So, I mean, it's not going to be able to put all 35% back into the battery. But the question is, how many percentage points can I get back into the battery, and what will that do to my range before that battery dies? The portable one. Now, please excuse my range estimate. It is skewed heavily because it's a little bit colder out these days, and also I drive pretty quick. I drive about 135 on average, and my drive is pretty much all highway, and I'm on winter tires, so my range is definitely skewed right now. But anyway, let's plug it in, and I'll show you the battery first. And here it is. This is a Wulills brand. It's a 200 amp hour 12 volt. You can see I've got the cables connected to the inverter here. Currently the battery level is at 100%. So let's go ahead and plug the inverter in. It's not currently turned on yet. We'll plug that in. There we go. And we'll fire it up. And let's see if we get a charge light here. Okay, car's thinking about it. And charging. All right. So now this will start to freak out when this battery goes down low. You can see it's already all over the place. It has no idea what to make of this amp draw. It's definitely not at 29%. So that is, of course, way off. Now, it's basically figuring that out by the charge level that's currently on the battery. It's 12.6 volts. Now, obviously, when you pull from the battery, it does drop the voltage. So don't have to worry about that, though. That's normal. So in order to figure out what the actual battery capacity remaining is, I actually need to stop charging and check it. So I'll do that every now and then. You can see that the inverter also says that the battery has dropped down 1 bar already, but I just plugged it in and the battery's fully charged. So I don't have to worry about that. So it's just a matter of waiting now and seeing when this finally gives up. So this does have a safety feature that it will cut off to protect the battery not going too low, and the battery also has a feature that does the same. So hopefully this heavier draw doesn't cause it to kick out too soon. All right, so as you can see, it currently says it's charging. I don't think there's anything on the electricity use screen. Nope, nothing there. And if I go onto this screen, it says the same thing. Let's see if there's anything here. Yeah, there's very little information to go off of, unfortunately, only that it's charging. It doesn't actually tell me, how many amps it's getting or anything like that. Now, what I can do to sort of reduce the draw on the inverter is I can go into EV settings here. I can go to charging current, and I can reduce the amount of charging current. So currently it's on maximum. I'm pulling in as much amperage as I can. Now, of course, when this all goes into the trailer, I will have 2 batteries. The other battery is a lower amperage. If I remember correctly, it's 100 amp hours. But when they're hooked up in parallel, at least they'll be able to provide a little bit more energy for a higher sort of surge than just one by itself. So that'll help for at least a little while. Yeah, curious to see how many kilometers we get back from this and whether I need to actually drop the charging amperage down. So we'll see what happens. Now, at 200 amp hours and 12 volts, this battery is about 2.4 kilowatts. So 2.4 kilowatts is only about 8.5% of the 28 kilowatt hour battery that's in this car. So the question is, will I get 8.5% back? Probably not, and the reason for that is because there are some charging losses. So if we look at roughly 90% efficiency here, hopefully even getting that much, then I can expect to see about, what is that, about 7.6 or something like that % back into the battery. So currently we were at 65%, so if it stops at 72, I'll be happy. That'll be 7% battery added from a 2.5 kilowatt hour battery, 2.4. I got an ammeter here. We're going to see how many amps are being drawn right at the moment here. We got 121. amps, of course, at 12 volts. So that works out to, yeah, about 1450, 1400 around there. There we go, 120. Seems fairly consistent at about 120 amps. And the fan just came on as well. So yeah, at 120 amps, 12 volts, that's actually perfect math, because generally when you plug into a wall outlet, these chargers draw 12 amps at 120 volts. So about 1440 watts. So that's actually kind of funny. So 1440 watts, 120 volts, 12 amps. In this case, it's 120 amps at 12 volts. Now the math, of course, is 1 times the other. So yeah, it works out perfectly. Now apparently I'm only using half of the capability of this inverter here, so it should be fine. And the fan is already off again, so it didn't take very long to cool back down. All right, so if that battery is, if I've done my math correctly here, the amount of kilowatt hours the battery has versus the amount of kilowatts that the car is drawing through the inverter and all that stuff, it should last, charging at that speed, it should last about an hour and a half, a little bit more, maybe an hour and 40 minutes, somewhere between an hour and 30 minutes, an hour and 40 minutes. If it does, then I know that that battery actually has the 200 amp hours that they say it has. If it doesn't, well, then I got ripped off, because I didn't pay a lot for that battery. It only cost me like 600 bucks, which is a really good deal for a 200 amp hour battery. Like a really, really good deal. It's a half price. So we'll see if it actually lasts that long, and if it actually puts in the 7 or 8%. You know, I'd even be happy with 6%. If I get 6% more into that battery, I'll be happy. But the good thing is I don't have to wait too long to figure this out. Only about an hour and a half at most. So we're going to come back to this in an hour and a half, see where we're at. All right, guys, it has been an hour and a half, actually a little bit longer, about an hour and 35 minutes. It's still charging, which means that battery is definitely pretty close to, at least pretty close to 200 amp hours. Currently it's down to 11.4 volts reading at the battery, and on the inverter it's reading 10.8 volts. Now when that gets down to, I believe it's 10.2, the alarm is going to go off and it's probably going to cut out at that time. So I have basically determined that if it manages to hit an hour and 42 minutes, then that battery is exactly 200 amp hours, which is going to be super impressive for a battery that only cost me about $585. That's phenomenal, phenomenal pricing for a battery like that. So, whew, this is pretty exciting. I wonder how much range and how many percentage points we managed to get back into this battery. That's going to be the very interesting part, but I don't want to turn it on yet and look, because, you know, that little bit of extra power that it's going to draw. So I really want to let it go until that battery is completely dead. So it's going to be soon. It's going to be very, very soon. It's already, you know, been an hour and about, well, 38 minutes I think we're at now. So I'm going to stop the video here and I'll start up again once it's dead. All right, it actually only took about 30 seconds or so before the alarm went off, and it's now beeping. Hasn't cut out yet though. Safety cutout hasn't happened yet. It's still charging. As you can see, the light is still flashing. But I do have an alarm going off. So at this point, I mean, under normal circumstances, this is where we want to shut this thing off. I mean, we don't want to drain that battery down too far. But it's a lithium iron phosphate battery, so they're a little bit better at handling that. And it just killed off right now. So that was exactly 1 hour and 39 minutes drawing 1,400 watts. So I'm going to do a quick calculation. It looks like the vehicle was able to successfully draw 2,310 watt hours, which is pretty darn close to the 24 kilowatt hours that battery is rated for. And now, accounting for some losses, I think that's pretty accurate. So let's see what the car says it's charged at. All right, so let's get in the car here and fire it up and see what it says. All right, we have 114 kilometers of expected range. Now, of course, that is never entirely accurate. So we're going to look at the EV percentage, and we're at 69%. All right, so we gained 8 kilometers of range roughly, and about 4% of the battery. Now, how does that equate? Well, the battery is a 28 kilowatt battery, and that little battery that we just charged from is a 2.4 kilowatt battery. Now, 2.4 kilowatts out of 28. What's the percentage there? Let's do some quick math. And the math is not very good. So with 100% efficiency, we would have expected to see about 8.5% of an increase on the battery. We only got 4%. So here's why that is. I needed to do a little bit of research to figure out why the losses were so great, and over 50% loss of efficiency between the 2.4 kilowatt battery and which is no longer sitting there, and the 28 kilowatt hour battery in the vehicle. And it turns out this is it. So when using an inverter such as this, even a pure sine wave inverter, there is some efficiency loss. And on top of that, to compound that, there's some efficiency loss when you're converting from a AC charger back to a DC battery. Now, basically what we're looking at is we're going from, you know, a battery that's getting warm through a charger or an inverter that's getting warm through a charging system in the vehicle that's probably getting warm. There's definitely some heat losses there in efficiency and other electrical efficiencies as well. So we have a total efficiency loss of about 55% or something like that. Not great, not what I was hoping for. I mean, ideally, if I could go straight from the DC battery into the DC battery, that would be the best way of doing it. But unfortunately, that's just not possible unless you have 400 volts of DC battery you can connect to the fast charge port. So, oh well. So I guess I won't really be using it to charge the vehicle at all, unless there is a desperate emergency. Now, of course, I do have an extra kilowatt of battery that's going to be connected up. So it'll be a little bit better. I would estimate probably around, well, if this one gave us about 4% and 8 kilometers, then that one would probably give us around, you know, in total about 12 kilometers and 6%. So can it be done? Yeah. Can it be done efficiently? I don't see how. I think with a better inverter, this inverter was fairly inexpensive. So with a better inverter, I probably have less of an efficiency loss, but it's pretty bad. But that doesn't matter. So this was just for sort of testing purposes. Most of what I want to do is just kind of power the trailer anyway. And then this would be just straight up for emergency use. So with the Ioniq 6 in an emergency, if I need to charge with the batteries that are in the trailer, I think what I will do is I'll charge up and hopefully get, you know, roughly, well, I had 8 kilometers of range gained on this one. So call it probably 8 kilometers of range on that one as well, because the Ioniq 6 is going to be extremely efficient, probably more efficient than this, even though this is a highly, highly efficient vehicle. Could be wrong, but let's say it's 9 kilometers and add to that the 1 kilowatt hour battery as well. So hopefully 13, 14 kilometers of range, maybe at very low speeds in an emergency. So, you know, that's something. And on top of that, the solar panels will be charging the battery bank while it's charging the car as well. So maybe get a little bit more if we're lucky. I don't know, maybe 14 kilometers. But I'm certainly not going to get that pulling a trailer. So what would probably happen is I would charge up the battery, hopefully to a point where it's within range of a fast charging station, and then just leave the trailer, go fast charge, come back. I think that's probably the only possible solution. Anyway, I'm going to close out this video there. A bit of a surprise with the efficiency losses. I am very, very happy in that battery did last that amount of time, pulling the full 1400 watts. That's pretty cool. So at least I know my cheap $600 battery, you know, actually has the capacity that they listed on it. That's pretty cool. Or at the very least, very close to it. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Next video will be about installing the solar panels on the trailer. So that'll be coming up next. Stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.